Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. You're not the a-hole, OP. You owe him nothing. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. I don't allow my neighbor to use my entrance. I, 34-year-old female, have been living in my current house for about 4 years. It's a lovely neighborhood, and I generally have a great relationship with my neighbors. However, there's one neighbor, Dave, 45-year-old male, who's been causing some issues lately. Dave and his family moved into the house next door about a year ago. They have a narrow driveway that can fit only one car, and their house doesn't have much street parking available. This hasn't been a problem until recently when Dave started hosting large gatherings at his house. During these gatherings, Dave's guests would park their cars on the street, which would quickly become overcrowded. As a result, some of his guests started using my driveway without asking for permission. Initially, I let it slide because I didn't want to cause any conflict. However, it began happening more frequently, and on a few occasions, I'd be unable to move my own car when I had to go to work or leave for my own business, forcing me to go to Dave's house and play a guessing game for someone to move their car. I decided to address the issue with Dave, explaining that I didn't mind his guests occasionally using my driveway, but I would appreciate it if he could ask for permission first. Dave seemed understanding and apologized for the inconvenience. However, the situation didn't improve. Dave continued to host gatherings, and his guests continued to use my driveway without permission. I decided to take matters into my own hands and placed a no parking sign in my driveway, along with a polite note asking Dave's guests to respect my property, also with a warning that I'd have their vehicles towed. Last weekend, Dave hosted another party, and his guests were forced to find alternative parking due to the sign. Dave confronted me, saying I was being unreasonable and that I should be more accommodating to his guests. He argued that it was just for a few hours and that I was creating unnecessary tension in the neighborhood. I stood my ground, explaining that I had tried to address the issue politely and that my driveway is my private property. I added that he should have respected my request for permission and made better arrangements for his guests' parking. Ever since then, me and Dave have not spoke to each other, with him and his family most of the time shooting me a bad look. So I'm not allowing my neighbor to use my driveway for his guests, despite having tried to address the issue politely. And our second story. You want to show me how to park my car? Have fun handling a car that does not baby you? Back in secondary school, I, then 18-year-old female, went to a friend's 18th birthday party. The plan was to have cake and give presents at the birthday girl's home, then drive to the city center for a meal, followed by drinks in a bar. Since I didn't live close by, I would drive there and back home afterwards in my car either way, so I volunteered to be one of the drivers for the night. The two other people that would drive the party guests around were a family member of the birthday girl, as well as a guy I'll call Peter. Peter was the boyfriend of Amy, a girl in the same friends group as me and birthday girl. Our group had the rule that unless something was explicitly labeled as a girls' day, all invitations included our respective romantic partners as a +1. From what I could tell, Peter was not close to anyone in our group other than Amy, but they only ever showed up together. I'm not kidding. Amy once refused an invitation to my birthday party because Peter would be busy with his studies that night. I never got along great with Peter, but I always acted civil and polite around him. Birthday girl lived in a part of town I'd never been to before. While driving from her place to the restaurant, we drove through a stretch of road that had several hard-to-see curves, with several intersections and traffic lights, and several lines of road in each direction. The road's crowded with cars that drove at the speed limit. I did try not to drive too slow as not to block traffic, but I had to drive a little below speed limit. When we reached the restaurant, Peter pulls me aside. Peter, you do know you can cause accidents by driving too slow, don't you? Me, annoyed, since I'm an experienced driver and he has no reason to lecture me. Yes, I know, but I never drove on that road before, so I couldn't go full speed while navigating safely in that traffic. Also, I'm not sure that driving between 40 and 45 kilometers an hour in a 50 kilometer an hour zone can actually be considered too slow. He sneers and leaves Amy to join at the tables. Later, we drove to a different part of town for drinks. Mine was the last car to enter the parking lot, so the other cars had already parked by the time I found an empty spot. Now, there's something you should know about my car. It was a solid working car, but a bit on the older side. It drove well, but was missing some amenities newer cars had. Most annoyingly, it did not have hydraulic power steering. As a result, it was very hard to adjust the wheels while that car was standing still. It was possible, but did require some elbow grease. I was used to it and could move the steering wheel while standing with little problem, but I had also adjusted the way I drove to make it possible to do most adjusting while the car is still moving. Among other things, I was very careful while parking, as correcting the car's position mid-parking required wheel adjustment while standing still. I was letting my car roll slowly into the right position to get into the parking spot in one move. Just before I got to the spot where I had to start turning the steering wheel to get the right angle without having to stop, Peter left the group waiting for us and walked over to my car. I lowered my window. Peter, in the most condescending tone I've ever heard, "Well, how about I help you out and park that car for you, huh?" I was just about to explain to him just what I thought about condescending a-holes like him when my eyes fell on his car. His brand new car his parents bought him when he got his license. His nice car with all the amenities you could imagine. I let my car roll up further to the exact spot where the wheels had to be fully adjusted in order for the car to fit into the spot. Then I shut off the motor, smiled, and said, "You know what? That sounds like a wonderful idea," and exited my car. He took my keys, started the motor, grabbed the steering wheel, and suddenly froze. His face turned to me with a scared look in his eyes. "Peter, does your car not have power steering?" Me, with the biggest grin, "Nope, now go on, show me how to park my car." He had to adjust while standing several times until my car was finally in the spot. The friends in my car had a very hard time suppressing their laughter. He exited, handed me the keys, and didn't even look at me for the rest of the night. I think I even saw him rubbing his upper arms in pain a couple of times. He never bothered me again. And our last story. You want a car? Now lose your house. I've, male 50, got 2 stepsons who I just call my sons, as I've been in their life since they, 8 and 10, and are now young men. My wife and I made it a point to have a great relationship with their dad, Jason, and made sure he had a chance to be around as much as possible, even staying at our place frequently to be around his boys, as he lived over an hour away and couldn't afford to live closer. Jason had a crazy ex-girlfriend who tried to claim they were married, variously saying common law or that they were married in secret or married on an Indian reservation, but he had a restraining order out against her because she was nuts and had tried various ways to screw up his life. The ex is a horrible person. She'd been arrested several times for forgery and fraud. She and Jason had a fiery relationship, but he had it in his head that he should make it work, as he did like her daughters and grandson, but the ex got him sent to prison for violating his probation when he left the country to go to his mom's funeral and hadn't filed an appropriate form. I'm a little unclear on this part, but she played a major role in it. After he got out several months later, she wanted him back and he wasn't having it. He made a clean break, moved to a new town, but she continued to harass him, thus leading to the restraining order. She would send texts to people pretending to be police investigating, saying he was drunk driving or taking drugs or pretending to be friends or family to spread rumors and hurt him. She even sent texts to my kids from burner phones pretending to be other family or friends, saying awful things about their dad. Jason died unexpectedly of a heart attack, and it was a shock to all of us. He was finally living in peace, had great relationships with friends and his sons, and he was the happiest he'd ever been. He didn't have much. He lived in a single-wide trailer a friend had let him stay in for free, some boxes of tools, old comics, video games, D&D books and modules, mementos from his times in the Marines, and an old 2009 pickup, which on several occasions he'd promised to my oldest son. Let's call him Paul. Jason didn't have a will, and my wife became the executor of the estate because at the time of death, both the sons were minors and sole heirs. We packed up the things out of Jason's trailer and took the truck, which had Jason's name on the title, but had to wait for the death certificate to retitle it in Paul's name. But the ex called Jason's sister, demanding the truck, saying it was hers, and posting on Facebook she was reporting it as stolen, etc., which really pissed me off. After we got the death certificate, we went to the DMV and found out that she had stolen the title to the truck by forgery saying she was the only heir and we couldn't transfer the title. My son was driving around with a packet documenting everything in case he was pulled over for driving a stolen vehicle. We had to get a lawyer and start a special process that took several months before a director at the DMV fixed it, and we were able to title the truck with the ex continuing to threaten and cause problems and made everyone miserable and cost us several thousand in legal fees. Early last year, we got through probate court. The ex never showed, in spite of saying she was the wife and sole heir. The court declared the boys as the sole heirs and my wife as executor of the estate in their names. Instead of showing up, the ex sent an email to the court saying she couldn't make it because of work, she doesn't have a job, and that Jason was never around his kids. He didn't miss a single high school football game, home or away, and never missed a home track meet, and that they were just leeching off his SSI for the back child support. She went on with a bunch of other non-related crap just to trash my wife and sons and pretty much said it didn't matter what the judge said, that she should get everything. During this time, we found out that Jason's name was on the deed of the ex's house. In order to get a reduction in property taxes because of Jason's disabled veteran status, she had filed papers to put him on the deed but not the mortgage. If she had just left my kids alone, we would have let it go, but she had pushed principal beyond the point of denial, so we filed suit for half the house. Property's worth about $380K. We went to court-ordered mediation, and she rejected a mediated settlement of a fraction of the value, which we would have taken. In April, her lawyer dropped her, and so she got a continuance on the first hearing. She then claimed that she had found a will from Jason designating her as sole heir, in addition to another signed paper that she found as a quitclaim deed from Jason for the house. I did wonder if it was this or her not paying him which caused him to drop her. She was going to go back to probate court to reopen, appeal, probate, and needed time for that, which the judge granted. On Tuesday, finally went to court on the deed to the house. She no-showed. The judge had inquiries to the probate court, and she never filed any papers. The trial lasted less than 10 minutes as the judge recorded the facts and awarded the estate half the property. They will impanel 3 lawyers to determine how the property will be sold, and she's going to lose her house and for the first time in her miserable life, face the consequences of her actions. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.